There's this really interesting thing happening with AI right now, isn't there? On one hand, you see all this incredible potential, the speed, the accuracy, automating tasks we never thought possible.
Hmm?
But then there's also this strong feeling of unease, almost fear that a lot of people have. It feels less like just a tool and more like, well, a potential threat.
Yeah, that tension is definitely there. It's really central to how people are talking about AI and feeling about it, too. It's
Yeah.
not abstract. It shows up in real worries about jobs, about education, about the future, really.
Exactly. And that tension, that feeling is what we're diving into today. We've been looking at some material, particularly an article digging into why AI causes this kind of emotional reaction.
Right.
It seems to go deeper than the obvious practical stuff like, will I lose my job? Or are students going to cheat? Those are real concerns for sure, but the thinking is they might stem from something more fundamental.
The core idea, really, is that a lot of these specific fears, employment, academic honesty, even trusting the tech, they all seem to connect back to a very basic human need and maybe a fear related to it,
Hmm.
the fear of losing control.
Ah, okay. The fear of losing control. Let's unpack that a bit. Why is control so important to us, and how does AI specifically trigger that feeling of losing it?
Well, the need for control seems pretty deeply wired in us.
Yeah.
From when we're very young, we're learning to interact with our environment, to influence things. That feeling of having some agency, some mastery, it's just fundamental to feeling okay psychologically.
It's like feeling you can actually do things, handle what comes your way.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And this links up with concepts psychologists talk about, like locus of control. Do you feel like you're generally in charge of outcomes that's an internal locus? Or do you feel like things are mostly shaped by outside forces and external locus?
Okay.
AI kind of muddies these waters because it's not like a simple tool. It learns, it adapts, it can generate things that are hard to predict or fully grasp how they got there. So for someone whose whole sense of competence is built on their own expertise, their own decisions, AI can feel like it's pushing that locus of control outwards.
So, if my confidence, maybe even my identity as a professional, comes from years of learning and making judgment calls, and then I see AI doing tasks that used to be mine, maybe using methods I don't fully get, that feels like a direct hit to my sense of agency. My control feels less important somehow.
That's a really key point. Traditionally, expertise gave you a certain authority, a certain control. AI comes along with its own kind of authority data, algorithms,
Hmm.
and starts doing things that needed that human touch before. It challenges that established way of things. And yeah, it can make people feel like their personal mastery is being sort of devalued.
And this general feeling, this unease about losing control, it doesn't just hang in the air, does it? It seems to take shape in very specific anxieties we're seeing.
Yeah, the material we looked at really highlights a few key areas where this plays out very strongly.
One of the biggest ones people talk about is job displacement. But the idea here is that it's often way more than just worrying about being unemployed. It hits closer to home. It's about the erosion of professional identity.
That's such a crucial distinction. Think about it, tasks like reviewing complex legal documents, interpreting medical scans, developing business strategies. These things took years of training, judgment, experience. AI is now getting pretty good at assisting with, or even doing parts of, these very tasks.
So when a machine can tackle something that was the core of your skilled identity-forming work, it's not just, oh, that task is automated. It feels more like your value, your professional worth is being questioned.
Exactly that. AI brings in this different kind of expert authority, the algorithm, the data, and it sits alongside or sometimes even replaces human judgment. Skilled professionals can feel really vulnerable, like their hard-earned expertise isn't as essential anymore. It challenges their control over their own professional story, their value proposition.
It's like losing the reins on the narrative of your own career, what makes you valuable.
Precisely. And you see kind of parallel fear related to control playing out in schools and universities, especially around students potentially using AI to write essays or solve problems. The worry about cheating isn't just about breaking rules.
Right.
It goes deeper to the integrity of the whole teaching and learning process.
Because education is supposed to be about building understanding inside the student, not just getting an assignment done.
Right. Think about traditional assessments, essays, exams, projects. Educators use these to guide learning and check if a student is genuinely engaging with the material. They're basically methods of control, trying to ensure real learning happens. The educator sets the stage, and the student's effort is supposed to drive the result.
And large language models can kind of short-circuit that. They can produce something that looks like the student did the work without them necessarily doing the hard thinking part.
Yeah, it totally disrupts that expected flow. AI lets students generate polished work without maybe going through the personal struggle and mental effort educators want to see. So the fear is losing control over the authenticity of the learning. Is genuine understanding actually being built, or is it just becoming a performance aimed at producing an output? The educator feels like they're losing control over that core goal.
It's the fear that you're not really teaching someone to think anymore, maybe just teaching them how to prompt a machine effectively.
That sums it up pretty well. And then there's another big area where this fear of losing control really shows up. AI mistakes and the trust issues that follow. We've all heard about AI hallucinations, right? Where it just makes stuff up confidently.
Yeah.
Or times when it just gets things wrong in ways that are hard to figure out.
Yeah, relying on a tool that can make these weird, opaque errors, especially if the stakes are high, it just feels fundamentally unsettling.
It really challenges our assumptions about who's responsible, who's accountable. When a person makes a mistake, it's often frustrating, but we can usually understand it in human terms. They were tired, they missed something, they made a bad judgment call. We can often follow the reasoning, even if it was flawed. But machine error, especially with complex AI, can feel alien, inscrutable. You might have no idea why it failed or how to stop it from happening again. That lack of understanding feels like a loss of control.
And this connects to that thing people talk about, version, doesn't it?
Yes, exactly. That's been studied quite a bit. People often show a real distrust of algorithms when they mess up, even if, statistically, the algorithm is actually better than a human overall. If an algorithm fails once, there's this strong pull to just go back to human control, even if humans made more mistakes on average.
It's not just about the error rate then.
No, it seems to be fundamentally about that perceived loss of control and understanding. There's maybe a weird comfort in human error because we feel like we get it in a way we don't get machine error.
Interesting.
And it probably taps into our own fear of failure, too. If you rely on an AI tool, you're kind of outsourcing part of your decision. If it goes wrong and something bad happens, it can be really hard to explain why you trusted it. It undermines your own feeling of mastery. Plus, there's that tricky question. If the AI messes up, who's actually responsible? The person using it, the company that made it, the data it was trained on.
And the source material points out that this fuzziness, this lack of clear accountability, is a major trigger for pushing back against AI. If you don't know where the control lies or who takes the fall when things go wrong, it just amps up that feeling of being in an unpredictable, uncontrollable situation.
So yeah, when you pull all these threads together, you see that bringing AI into our lives really forces us to deal with some deep discomfort around uncertainty, around complexity.
Yeah.
The main point seems to be that it's not the tech itself that's inherently scary.
Right.
It's more about how AI disrupts our deep-seated beliefs about where control should be in our jobs and how we learn and the decisions we make. That's what makes it feel like a threat to our sense of self, our agency.
It challenges the very foundations of what we thought competence and authority meant in a lot of fields.
Absolutely. Professionals feel their control over specialized knowledge is shaky. Educators worry about controlling the authenticity of learning. Individuals start questioning their own control over things like accuracy, creativity, maybe even truth when they're interacting with these generative AI systems.
But the material doesn't just leave us there stuck in the fear, does it? It suggests that maybe this fear, even though it feels bad, could actually be useful.
That's a really important shift in perspective, yeah. It begs the question, can this discomfort actually lead somewhere positive?
It feels a bit strange to think of fear as helpful.
Well, it can be a powerful wake-up call, a catalyst for some serious reflection. The disruption AI causes kind of forces us, individuals, companies, schools, to stop and ask, okay, what do we really value here? What parts of human work or the learning process are genuinely essential beyond just getting the task done?
So instead of just reacting against AI because it feels uncomfortable, the fear makes us look harder at what we fundamentally care about and want to preserve or even improve.
Exactly. It can push us to rethink what competence even looks like when AI tools are available, to reconsider how we measure real learning and skill, and critically, it can motivate us to actually design better ways for humans and machines to work together.
And that collaboration piece seems vital for dealing with the fear of lost control. It's not about AI taking over, but about designing systems that deliberately keep humans involved, in the loop.
Yes, focusing on human oversight, making AI more explainable so we understand why it suggests something, and really working on building trust between people and AI tools. The aim shouldn't just be AI autonomy for its own sake. It should be about AI augmenting what we can do, but in ways that preserve, maybe even strengthen our sense of agency and focus on the meaningful parts of work and learning.
And acknowledging that these fears are legitimate, that they come from this deep need for control, that seems like the essential first step. It's about building confidence, not just demanding people accept the tech despite feeling anxious.
Yeah, it shifts the whole conversation from just trying to cope with a perceived threat to actively designing a future where AI is a partner that respects and enhances what humans do best.
So what does all this mean for you listening? Well, this deep dive suggests the fear surrounding AI isn't just about the surface level worries like jobs or glitches. It seems profoundly tied to our very human need for control, our identities, especially professional ones, and how comfortable we are with uncertainty.
And it highlights real concerns. Concerns that need careful thought from everyone involved, the people building AI, the people using it, organizations integrating it.
But seeing the fear through this lens of threat and control, it also opens up an opportunity, doesn't it? It's a chance to pause, really think about what matters, and actively shape how humans and AI can collaborate in ways that are effective, meaningful, and crucially, maybe even strengthen our sense of competence and control.
Understanding the root of the fear might just be the most powerful tool we have for navigating what comes next with AI.
So here's a thought to leave you with. If a big part of the fear around AI is about losing control, how can you, in your own work or life, consciously look for or even create ways for AI to enhance your sense of control and competence rather than diminish it? How could it become a tool that actually boosts your agency?
Something to definitely mull over as you encounter AI more and more.
And on a related note, if you're trying to navigate some of these practical integration challenges, maybe particularly from a business angle, I recently found Shelley Meadows' book From Data to Decisions, AI Insights for Business Leaders, really quite helpful for thinking through these issues.